Sometimes I think about how weird it is that most of us spend a third of our lives working, like not living, not dreaming, not resting, just working. For a company, for a boss, for rent. And what's even weirder is that nobody really questions it. Like, yeah, man, just pick a career you don't hate too much and grind until you die. Cool. That's the plan. I mean, think about it. We spend the most alert, most energetic hours of our days inside buildings we don't own, solving problems we didn't create for goals we don't believe in. And then we come home, try to decompress in the 2 hours before bed, and call that a life. It's wild. Even as kids, we were being prepped for this. Remember those moments in elementary school when teachers would ask, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Like our whole existence was already being funneled into some job title. Not who do you want to be, but what job are you going to fit into? That question used to excite me. Now it just feels like the first draft of a trap. And the irony? Nobody tells you that even if you get the job you dreamed of, it might still suck. Because it's not about the job, it's about the system that wraps around it. The hours, the emails, the performance reviews, the fake smiles, the pressure to always be doing more. It's not just that we work too much, it's that we live too little. And yet, everyone just nods and keeps going. Like there's some invisible conveyor belt we're all riding, and no one wants to be the one who steps off first. There's this quote from Orwell's 1984, the one that says, "Who controls the present controls the past." And I think about that every time I see a post romanticizing hard work or hustle culture. Like, who decided that our worth should be tied to our productivity? Who sold us that dream? Because let's be honest, most jobs today don't feel like dreams. They feel like traps. And I know someone's going to say Gen Z just doesn't want to work, but maybe it's not that. Maybe we're just not willing to destroy ourselves for jobs that don't even cover the cost of living. Like, minimum wage hasn't kept up with inflation in years. Rent is ridiculous. College degrees feel like scams half the time. And somehow, when we say, "Hey, this system doesn't work," people call us lazy. It's like, imagine you're in a burning building, and instead of asking for help, you're told to stay and be grateful you even have a building. Sometimes I think about the way job interviews feel like auditions. Like you're supposed to smile, act enthusiastic, be the best version of yourself, but not too real. Just polished enough to seem human, but obedient enough to follow orders. It's weird how we're judged for how good we are pretending. Like the job starts before the job starts. And it never really stops. That's what a lot of jobs feel like. I had this job once during the pandemic, just retail stuff, standing 8 hours a day trying to upsell Bluetooth speakers to people who didn't even want to talk to me. And every time I took a breath, my manager would pop up like, "Let's stay active, team." Like, bro, I'm literally just trying to exist. Let me exist. And then there was this other job, remote customer support. Sounds chill, right? But somehow, sitting alone at a desk, being watched through a webcam while answering the same 5 questions 100 times a day felt even more draining. I'd mute my mic, lean back, and just stare at the ceiling while someone yelled at me about a late shipment. My supervisor once pinged me on Slack like, "Hi, I noticed your typing speed dropped this hour. Everything okay?" And I just wanted to type back, "No, Lauren, everything is not okay." I think I'm slowly dissolving into my chair. I had this coworker, Sam Cool Guy, mid-20s, used to DJ before the pandemic. We'd DM each other during shifts just to stay sane. One day he sent me this message that just said, "I miss having a soul." I laughed, but like I felt that deeply. We were both working full-time and somehow felt like we were disappearing. It wasn't the work, it was the emptiness. And I remember coming home every night completely drained. Not just tired, like physically exhausted. I'm talking about the kind of burnout that makes you forget what joy feels like. You get home, lie on the floor, stare at the ceiling, and wonder, is this it? Is this what being an adult is? And maybe it is. Maybe adulthood is just a slow surrender. Waking up, clocking in, clocking out, swiping your card at the grocery store and praying it doesn't decline. Smiling when your landlord raises the rent and telling yourself it's just the market. But here's the thing, nobody wants to admit. The reason Gen Z bounces from jobs, the reason we ghost employers or quit too soon, isn't because we're weak. It's because we notice when something's off. We feel it. That soul-deep discomfort. The red flags. The quiet realization that we're being slowly erased by a system that doesn't care if we burn out, as long as we hit our KPIs. We don't wait for it to break us. We leave. And yeah, maybe that makes us look unstable. But maybe instability is better than being stuck in something that kills you slowly. I once quit a job after 2 weeks. Not because I couldn't handle it, but because the vibes were off. It was one of those open floor offices where everyone has standing desks, and they give you kombucha on Fridays like that's supposed to make up for soul death. The second day I overheard a manager say, "We're not just a team, we're a family." And I was like, nope. I've seen what happens in those families. The gaslighting, the guilt tripping, the forced loyalty. I walked out the next Monday and never looked back. There's this illusion that loyalty matters. Like if you work hard enough, long enough, the company will take care of you. But I've seen people get laid off for the two-line email. I've seen coworkers give years to a job only to be replaced the next day, and somehow we're the ungrateful ones. I remember this dude at my old job who worked there for a decade, never took sick days, always on time, model employee. Then one day he tweaked his back lifting a box, and boom, gone. No warning. Just thanks for your service. And it got me thinking, how many of our relationships are built on that same one-sided faith? We don't stay in friendships where the other person ghosts us for weeks. We don't stay in relationships where we're constantly the only one showing up. But with work, we're expected to keep proving ourselves again and again for scraps of approval. In school, at least, you knew what the rules were. Study, take the test, get the grade. But with jobs, it's this shape-shifting mess of politics and fake smiles and pretending to care about quarterly reports. You're not just trying to be good, you're trying to be liked. You're performing, constantly. It's no wonder we've got trust issues. Every system we were told to believe in, school, jobs, adulthood, feels like a bait and switch. And the more we see it, the harder it is to keep pretending we don't. And that stuck with me, like, they really don't care. And it makes you think, what am I working toward? A pat on the back? A LinkedIn endorsement? A certificate of participation in the corporate Hunger Games? So when people say Gen Z has no work ethic, what they really mean is, we have boundaries. We don't romanticize suffering. We're not impressed by 60-hour work weeks and no vacation. That's not grind. That's survival, and we're tired of just surviving. You know what's wild? A lot of us grew up being told, just go to college, get a job, and everything will be fine. Like life was this simple 3-step process. But now we've got degrees collecting dust and job listings asking for 5 years of experience for an entry-level position that pays $15 an hour. So yeah, we're questioning things, because the math doesn't add up, not anymore, and what makes it worse is the gaslighting. Boomers love saying stuff like, when I was your age, I already had a house and 2 kids. Cool, Steve. Houses used to cost as much as a used Honda. Now I can't even afford a studio apartment without a roommate who vapes indoors and never does the dishes. But somehow, we're the problem. We grew up watching our parents grind themselves into dust and still struggle. They did everything right, stayed loyal, worked overtime, never complained, and they still got laid off, still lost their pensions, still couldn't retire. So yeah, we're skeptical. We don't want to follow a path that ends in regret. We want a path that ends in peace, or at least a little less suffering. There's this other layer too. It's not just that jobs don't pay enough, it's that they expect everything from you, your time, your mental health, your identity. Ever notice how work slowly becomes your personality? You stop saying what you like to do. You start saying what you do for a living. Oh, I'm in tech, I'm a barista, I work in marketing. But what about the rest of you? The part that writes music at 2 a.m. The part that sketches anime characters in the margins of your notebook. The part that's still trying to figure things out. It's like the world only values us for what we produce, not for who we are. Capitalism has this creepy way of absorbing everything. Even your hobbies start to feel like business opportunities. You paint? Cool, you should sell prints. You write? You should monetize that blog. It's like we're not allowed to just be anymore. We have to be marketable, sellable, brandable. You ever try explaining to someone that you're just figuring things out? And they look at you like you're broken, like you missed a deadline for becoming a fully optimized adult? But maybe that's what this generation is rejecting. The idea that your value is tied to output. That your soul is a subscription service, that your passion isn't valid unless it earns rent money. We're not broken, we're just tired of being converted into LinkedIn bios. There's this pressure to brand yourself, to become a product. Even on apps, it's like, show your value, what's your niche? What's your edge? And I get it, it's survival. But I also miss when people were just people, not content, not commodities, just existing without needing to optimize every part of themselves. I don't want to be a walking pitch deck, I just want to be a person. And that's where it starts to feel like 1984. Like we're all just tiny cogs in a machine we didn't build and don't control. The system tells you what's real, what's valuable, what's acceptable. You don't question it, you just comply. You ever sit in a meeting and think, why does this feel like theater? Everyone's nodding, saying buzzwords like synergy and touch points, and you're just sitting there wondering how we all agreed to pretend this matters. That's the part that freaks me out. The performance. How work isn't just about doing your job. It's about looking like you care, like you belong, even if it's slowly eating you alive. Sometimes I think we're all Winston from 1984, rewriting our own memories to fit the company narrative. No, I wasn't exhausted. I was just passionate. No, I didn't cry in the bathroom. I was just taking a wellness break. It's dystopia disguised as routine. But here's the thing. Gen Z sees through it. We're not hypnotized by titles or status. We don't dream of corner offices. We dream of peace, of time, of doing work that doesn't make us hate waking up. And yeah, that might mean quitting jobs that suck. That might mean trying 10 different things before something sticks. That might mean freelancing or gig work or starting some random niche YouTube channel and hoping it connects. But we're not lazy. We're just not willing to sell our souls for a paycheck that doesn't even pay for therapy. And look, I get it. The system's messed up, but we still need money. We still need to eat, pay rent, help our families survive. I'm not saying we should all just vibe in the woods and hope for the best. I'm saying we're allowed to want more than just survival. We're allowed to ask, what kind of life is this building me toward? Because if all we're doing is working to afford the things that numb us from work, then what's the point? I used to think happiness was this big, dramatic thing, like a fireworks show or some huge breakthrough. But now, it feels more like a quiet afternoon, a good cup of coffee, a playlist that hits at the right time, a moment where you're not anxious about emails or bills or expectations. That's what we're chasing. Not riches, not status, just moments where we feel like ourselves again. Like, I used to fantasize about quitting everything, just vanishing, going off grid. But then I'd remember, disappearing still costs money. Even freedom has a price tag, and that's the part that stings. You realize there's no escape without effort, no peace without a plan. You can't just reject the system, you have to replace it with something, and that takes time, work, discipline, even sacrifice. But Gen Z isn't afraid of that. We're just not going to break ourselves for systems that see us as replaceable. We're not doing jobs that drain us just because that's life. We've seen what that life does to our parents, how it ages them, how it hardens them, how it makes them bitter, even when they don't mean to be. And maybe we're trying to break that cycle. That's why so many of us try to build something else. A side hustle, a content page, a service, a skill, something that's ours, even if it doesn't make money yet, even if no one gets it, because at least then it's ours. I've got friends who do Uber at night just to fund their design portfolios. Others who edit videos all weekend hoping to land one freelance client. And I get it now. It's not just about quitting jobs we hate. It's about creating something we don't. Even if it's slow, even if it's uncertain, even if it fails. Because we'd rather fail at something that feels real than succeed at something that feels hollow. And maybe that's the biggest difference. We're not scared of hard work, we're just done doing it for the wrong reasons. So yeah, the world might look at us and say we're lazy, that we're dreamers, that we're lost. But I think we're just awake. We know the system's broken, we know AI is coming for jobs, we know job security is a myth. And instead of pretending everything's fine, we're doing what we can with what we've got. Sometimes that looks like quitting. Sometimes that looks like building. Sometimes that just looks like surviving one more day and logging into a game just to feel something. But it all matters. Because if we're going to make it through this weird, crumbling, late capitalist moment in history, we need to start being honest about what's not working. And we need to start dreaming, even if those dreams feel naive. Because honestly, the only thing more exhausting than working a job you hate is pretending you don't. And it makes you wonder, what would it look like if we weren't constantly at war with ourselves just to survive? What if work wasn't a battlefield but a bridge? Something that connected us to meaning, not misery. What if we measured success by how rested we felt? By how much time we had to create, connect, just be? I don't have a perfect answer. I don't think anyone does. But maybe a better system is one where people matter more than profit margins. Where we're not defined by our output, but by our capacity to grow, to rest, to be human. Maybe a better future isn't built in one big revolution, but in all the small choices we make to care for ourselves and each other. Every time we say no to a toxic job, every time we choose rest over hustle, every time we help someone else break free too, that's part of the rewrite. We might not know what the new system looks like yet, but we know this one's broken. And knowing that, that's where change begins. So yeah, that's all I've got. Thanks for listening. Even if you just had this on in the background while doing your taxes or folding laundry or whatever, this isn't a manifesto, it's just a vent, a journal entry. Therapy with kill streaks. And if you're out there trying to figure it out like I am, just know you're not alone. We're all trying. In our own messy, half-broken, glitchy way, and that's enough, for now.